Hi! I come to you a day and a few hours late this time around, but you'll forgive me. It's the holiday season and, I lost track of time just a little bit. But I wouldn't miss airing this episode for the world because it's the last one for 2024 and I wanted to go with a bang. So today you're going to be listening to another coaching call, the last one for 2024 and for now, the last one that I will be featuring on this podcast. Starting in January, I'll be introducing a few new things. Some more expert interviews, which I have seen that you guys find very valuable, but also I'm thinking monthly book reviews. I would like to dive into books that explore topics like couples relationships and parenting, matrescence, identity, and so much more. I can't wait to share these insights with you in season 2 of this podcast. Before we dive into this episode, I want to take a moment to thank each of you for being part of this journey. Because of you, this podcast has ranked in the top 10% worldwide, a milestone that I am deeply grateful for. Today's coaching session touches on themes that resonate with so many of us: the identity shifts in motherhood, work-life balance, and how our own childhood patterns can influence the way we parent. It's a session that speaks to moms navigating these changes and offers valuable insight for partners too. Moms, you will feel seen and understood. Dads, or partners, this episode gives you a window into your wife or your partner's inner world and offers ways to support her more deeply. Oh, and one quick note. During this episode, I've intentionally avoided using my guest's name to give her the option of anonymity. However, with her permission, I will introduce her and what she does at the very end. So stay tuned for that too. So now, let's get into the session. Hi there. If this is your first time here, welcome to the Parenthood and Relationship Podcast. I'm your host, Markella Kaplani, a psychologist, a parenthood and relationship coach, and a parent myself. Together, we explore the transformative journey of parenthood and its profound impact on our relationship with ourselves, our partners, and our children, so that we can be present and show up as we envision without having to do more. Let's get into today's episode. Hello and welcome to the Parenthood and Relationship Podcast.
Hi.
Today, I am so honored that you're here with me, and I am going to jump right in. First of all, thank you for being here and for having the courage to be here and to open up. And I would love for you to let me know what it is that you want to bring to today's session.
Sure. So I have learned about matrescence through you. I feel like it is a really eye-opening just knowledge here. Some truth bombs were dropped and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's totally me. Because when I became a mom, I definitely felt that identity shift. And yeah, I'm here to talk about it.
Okay. Would you like to share how many kids you have, how old they are?
Yes. So I have 2 kids. I have a boy and a girl. And my daughter is the oldest. She's 6. And my son will be 3 this month.
Oh, very nice. May they be happy and blessed.
Oh, thank you.
So, is there something specific that you want to bring today, or do you want to get into talking about the identity shift?
So for sure, I think the identity shift, especially around work-life balance, I think that was the biggest shift for me. And then not only that, but impact that it has on marriage, becoming a parent, not just for me, myself, but, as a dad, patrescence, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I guess when it comes back to me, I've always been a very driven person. And I think that this is really common for a lot of high achieving women where it's like, oh, they're doing all the things, they're getting stuff done, they're making moves. And then they're really excited that they're pregnant and it's like, oh, we're going to have a baby. And then they have the baby. You're like, oh, wait, that whole part of me doesn't it doesn't fit anymore. I can't just be go and work. And it's taking me a lot of mindset work to get around having to be go anyway and settling into a space where I want to be present with my kids. I value them more than my work. And I think that learning to find that balance has been really challenging, because for a long time, I guess that's where I put my value in, like my
Mm-hmm.
own self-value, on being a good employee, like getting stuff accomplished, always being the go-to person, basically just being the star student, the star employee, you know?
Yeah.
Pride in that. Like I took, or I still do take pride in my work that I do. And I think that that's also just been kind of this idea that society has put on me, especially my parents. You know, they always were adamant about me doing well in school, getting good grades, and being successful. And I'm saying that in air quotes because success is different for everyone. It doesn't have to look like a certain path, you know, maybe your parents set forth for you. Yeah,
Okay. So there's one thing that you said that I would like to go back on.
sure,
And sometimes you see me looking down, I'm keeping notes because it helps me kind of
sure.
formulate everything that I hear. You said, I've been a person that's very ambitious. And now that I'm a mother, I had to be on the go. But at the same time, I want to be present.
Mm.
And I'm just wondering the have to be. Could you explain why it's a have to be? Is it for financial reasons? Is it because you want to be in touch with that part of yourself?
For having to be like go, 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 you mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because it has been a part of my identity. So when I got pregnant with my daughter, my thought was, I want to be home with my daughter and I want to be a stay at home parent. And
Mm-hmm.
then I was a stay at home parent for 3 months during maternity leave. And like that was really hard to leave her for that time. And I went back to work. And while I was working, I really missed the time with her. And so I wanted to be a stay at home parent. And I had that opportunity to become one, and then I was like, I don't want to be a stay-at-home parent. Being like that in my work or in my job, it's because I know that it's this goal that I've set forth for myself and I want to achieve it. When there's a child involved, you don't have that, it's going to sound crazy. You don't have that same sense of control that you would like in work. And if you're handling projects or you're working on, like for me, my background was in project management. And so
Mm-hmm.
for that, you have to have a level of control because you're controlling all of the like the details in a project and making them all come together, like all the moving parts. You can't control people like that.
Right.
Like, yeah. And so I think that, you know, becoming a parent in that way, in realizing people aren't to be micromanaged. And
Right.
that has been like an aspect that I have been working through. And it's part, like I said, it's part of my identity and wanting to control things. Like I do feel like I'm a controlling person. It has been something that I've been working on. And I feel like I'm getting better, but it is hard to let go of control. It really is. And you, like I said, you can't be that way with your kids or people in general. Like you can't micromanage people, but especially like your children, because then it creates this friction and this pushback. And then it makes parenting harder
Yeah.
because you're wanting to control them. And it's like, you have to have a certain level of control and then let them also be, right? So
Right.
that's where my kind of like, oh, go, go, go. It's like I'm controlling all the aspects and the things that make up this project. And it's like, you can't go, go, go and control all the things as, you know, a parent.
And so you're bringing this forward today because there is this split between being a project manager and doing go, 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 and then coming back home and having to be someone different, having to be in flow and having to let go of control. Is that the main issue, or is it something else?
Be more patient, be more understanding that a child is not going to respond to you as quickly as someone in work will. You can set forth expectations for children, but they're still learning, they're still growing. Like they're going to make mistakes and they're learning also what you expect of them. And you have to be patient and learn to alter your expectations to suit what is actually the pace going on. You're moving a lot slower with children. That's just a given. You want to get out the door at 5 o'clock, you're getting out the door at 5:15.
Tell me about it.
No, and that makes me anxious. I think that's another part of maybe I think that's an important topic, honestly, to talk about today is how much my anxiety has increased since becoming a parent. And I think part of that is connected to that aspect of control, of me not being able to control things. And so it makes me anxious because I can't control that outcome.
Okay. And how does that anxiety manifest in your parenting and in your daily life?
I tend to rush my kids, particularly my daughter. Um, I would say she's the more challenging of my two,
Mm-hmm.
only because she is more resistant to me doing that pushback and rushing her. And honestly, I am pretty thankful because she's in therapy because she had some anxiety manifesting in the
Okay.
form of in the form of like stomach pains for like almost a week. She would cry and scream that her stomach was hurting, and we took her to the doctor, to the pediatrician, and they said it doesn't look like there's a cause. So the next thing that I would probably suggest is anxiety. And actually, the school nurse had also said it. Like,
Mm.
okay, then we probably need to find a therapist. And so
Okay.
we did, and she has been going to therapy, and it's actually gotten a lot better the more that she's been able to tell me the things that bother her. And one of them was, "You're rushing me." She told me multiple times, "You're rushing me, you're rushing me." And I'm like, I am so sorry that I am rushing you. I don't even realize when I'm doing it. It's just like, we gotta go, we gotta go. Like I said, go, 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 right? Gotta leave. We're getting out the door. Get your shoes on. That I can understand why that makes her anxious. Like me as a child, I was often rushed too. Like, go, 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 let's go. Come on, come on. Like, get moving. And it's just, it does place anxiety on you. And I didn't realize until she said it that that's what I was doing. And so I have come to have some realizations about like how my anxiety is affecting her and creating anxiety in her. And I think that that's another way of like how my high achieving and controlling tendencies have impacted her. And it's hard to get around when you've always been this person and now you need to take the foot off the gas. And it's not necessarily
Mm.
a bad thing, because I don't want to live in a state of anxiety. Like, I didn't even know that I was very anxious until after I had my daughter.
Because you were able to function in that state,
Mm-hmm.
but then something else was added, and that something else needs a lot of energy and a
Mm-hmm.
lot of self-reflection as well. And it
Mm-hmm.
takes up not only time, but it takes up a lot of effort. And the thing with parenthood is that it brings us to realize a lot of things about ourselves that we didn't before. And so this is exactly what you're describing. I'm wondering, how did it feel when your daughter said it for the first time, that, oh my God, you're rushing me? And it sounds like it was part of her, after therapy, describing to you one of the ways that you've contributed, at least in the way that you said it. It sounds like
Mm-hmm.
you interpret it that way.
Mm-hmm.
How did it feel for you?
Like a light bulb went off in my head because when she told me that, and I did say, I said, I'm sorry. I'm not intending to rush you. I know exactly how you're feeling right now. I said, I hate to be rushed. I don't like being rushed, and I'm very sorry that I'm rushing you. It actually has made me be more conscious of when I am saying, hurry up, let's go. It felt almost like a slap in the face, like, oh my gosh, I am doing that, like a realization. And
Hmm.
I'm not even mad at it. If anything, I'm grateful for it.
Yeah, no, but it's really important. I was looking to see if there were any other feelings. I wasn't expecting, for example, to hear mad, although that could be a natural reaction
Yeah.
as well. There's nothing normal or abnormal about any of the feelings that could have been expressed here. But I'm thinking of what you said, that you were rushed as well, and that
Mm-hmm.
you've been raised to be a person that's on the go, a person that is successful, and whatever that success might mean. And in this case, it sounds like success meant achieving more and more and doing a lot of things for
Yeah.
you. And then we start to see how that began to manifest from you toward your daughter, which
Mm-hmm.
is very interesting that as a mom, you're passing it more on to your daughter.
I know. And I don't want
right?
to. I don't.
Yeah, of course, we don't, but we end up doing certain things that we swore we wouldn't do. And there is an explanation. A lot of times, what happens is that the way that we were parented is
Mhm.
how our adult self parents our inner child. So, as you took for granted that this is the way, the right way to go, because that's what we do as children, we think our parents are doing the best thing possible, and they are. They
Right.
are, but we don't question certain things that may
Mhm.
not necessarily feel right. And
Exactly.
then from a point on, they become us. We incorporate these, we internalize them.
Yeah.
And so it's the way that we end up parenting our own inner child as adults. And then what happens is we get into parenting ourselves in this generation where you keep on hearing about gentle parenting, and all of a sudden we're supposed to be this parent that takes their time and is calm and is composed all the time. And it really goes against what our inner child has experienced from us. And
Mhm.
there's a kickback. A lot of times, what I get from parents is that they feel really guilty for not being that gentle parent that they're trying to be, not being that ideal parent, not following all the guidelines that they've read in the books. Like, I know these things, I've been to experts, I've prepared for this. And why is that coming out?
Right.
And the important thing there is for us to be able to look within with compassion and say, if it's coming out, it's probably trying to tell you something. You're not a bad person because
Mhm.
you are rushing your daughter. There's nothing wrong with you when you do it and you don't realize it. Even now that you know, you're still going to probably rush her sometimes, and that's
Yeah.
also okay and it's fine. But what is important is that you were made aware of it and you're holding on to that awareness. And now I'm would like to invite you to kind of, if this rushing part of you had a voice in that
Mhm.
moment, if you can think of the last time you felt like you had to rush your kids, what would it say?
If I'm telling, like, if I'm rushing my kids, like, what would I tell them?
Yeah, when you're in that energy,
Hmm.
when that part of you has taken over, it's a day where you're rushing and you're saying, come on, let's go, all these things.
Yeah.
What is happening within in that moment where you may notice at least one of your children slowing down and taking their time? What happens there?
So actually, was it earlier this week? We almost missed the bus. We were actually fortunate enough that the bus was late, and so we didn't miss the bus. It just worked out so nicely that we were late and the bus was late, so it was okay. But whenever I start to rush my kids, particularly, like I said, my daughter. So you were talking about, like, as kids, we didn't really question a whole lot sometimes. Like, we know usually what our parents said, like, we took for face value because they're our parents. My daughter, she's always been a questioner, which has been part of, like, this is so hard because it's like, why are you questioning everything? But in this instance, when I was rushing her about the bus, like, she wasn't questioning me back. She was like, she starts to move slower. She,
Mm.
like, starts to shut down. Then I don't get anything done. So I feel like when I want to push her to move, I can't. I cannot push her. She will not budge.
So how does it feel for you in that moment?
Like, I have to be very strategic in what I'm saying to her to get her to move. Like, I can't rush her. I do have to choose my words, I guess, to get her
But
out the door.
that's the strategy. It's not the feeling, because I sensed
Right.
a little bit of frustration.
Oh, for sure. I get frustrated because I just want her to do the thing. Like, please just get out the door. I'm just trying to get you to school. So, yeah, there's definitely a lot of frustration about her not actually doing the things that I'm asking her to do in the time that I want her to do them. Like, at this point, doing bath time with her is another obstacle for me. It's very
Okay.
hard for me to do bath time. Most of the time, I'm like, telling my husband, okay, you go and do bath time because it stresses me out. It makes my anxiety peak. And I'd just rather not. Most of the time, we do bath time like around 6:30. And I try to have them in bed by like 7:15. So that way they can start getting into bed, because when they go to bed, they're not actually going to sleep. I want them to go to sleep at a decent time so they have enough rest throughout the day or throughout the night, you know? And when we're bathing at 6:30, And we do that at that time because of all of the other work, like work, dinner. That's just the time that it kind of lands on. It's like 6:30. And I'm like, okay, I want to adhere to this schedule that I've made up in my head, right? And you can't be on schedule if you are in the bathtub and playing around and doing all the things that you're not supposed to be doing. I'm doing air quotes again because
Mm.
I know that the things that I'm saying, it's like I've made up the schedule in my head and you're supposed to do this, but it like says who? Says
Well,
who?
says
Says me?
you. And before we go into how do we break this down, because it sounds like a part of you would have really wanted you to be more relaxed about the schedule, since you're
Yeah.
saying, yeah, says who, I made it myself. There is that part of you, but before we go there, it's important to listen to that other part that has created that schedule and feels
Mm,
like it needs to be in place.
right.
And the first question that I want to ask is, your daughter's resistance to this schedule, how does it make you feel about yourself? So when she stops
Hmm.
you in your tracks and she slows down to put on her shoes, when she starts playing, even though she knows, and by this age, that also plays a role in the way that we think. We think, by this age, she understands everything. So
Right.
she's consciously doing what she's doing. So what does that trigger in you? What does that say about you when she does this?
Uh, honestly, like I am like in awe of her because she's like, I don't give a what you say. I'm gonna be me, and it's so brave, to be honest, and
Hmm.
refreshing these days for to find someone who's I know who I'm not gonna say she knows who she is because she's 6, but like she knows who she's becoming. She knows the things that she doesn't like and what she does like, and she pretty open to say something when something is bothering her, as opposed to just going with it because I said so. And I very much don't want, I was a people pleaser for a very long time. And it's hard to get out of that cycle of, people pleasing, and not just your parents. Like I'm talking about like people pleasing in work or friendships or things like that, where you feel like you have to do things because you want to be liked or because you want to mind your P's and Q's. And for my daughter to have that pushback, yes, it's very aggravating. But at the same time, like it makes me a little proud because it's like I know that when she's older that she is not going to be pushed around to do something that she doesn't want to do because someone else is telling her that she should or has to.
Yeah, it is really good. And it speaks volumes to the way that you're raising her because she feels safe to do that with you, right? I believe that a lot of kids, and even kids in our generation, we had the courage and we had the power and we had the personality to speak up, but we didn't because there were cues from our parents or one of the parents that showed us, because we're very intelligent as children. Children are very smart. And these cues, they didn't have to be something tragic in the form of, verbal or physical abuse, but there were cues that showed us that if you speak up, if you go against what is the standard in this home, you are going to be rejected. You are going to not be as loved. It's going to be potentially harmful for you. And so we chose to shut our mouths and move on with it. And of course, this is something that stays. And then it starts to become something that we do with other people outside of the home as
Mm-hmm.
well. And so your daughter still being at a point where she has expressed and still feels safe to express her discontent and her different opinion about how things should go, that is great because you've given her the space. That, at the same time, does not take away from that part of you that feels aggravated.
Right.
And that part of you that feels aggravated, it's got some grievance. Something's happening there.
Yeah.
And by talking about that part that's proud of her, sometimes we dismiss the part that's aggravated because it's the bad one. You're not supposed to get aggravated about these things if you're a good mom. I don't know if that hits home at all.
I feel like it used to. And right now I feel like I'm on growth journey myself, like internally. And I have taken a lot of aspects of my life and really like examined them. And I understand now, like, why it makes me angry that she doesn't do the things that I'm asking her to do. Like, it makes me angry because I wish that I could, like, just, like, I don't care what you say. I'm going to do what I want to do because that's who I am. I admire the tenacity that she has to stand up for who she is right now. And for me, I've always felt like I was dismissed as a kid, and not just like by my parents, but like in general. You know, I was bullied as a kid. I felt like people didn't like me. Like, I was told I was annoying by other people in school and all of those things. And that makes you want to close off yourself, you know, and not be who you are. I get frustrated because she is being who she is, and she is not doing the things I'm asking her to do because she's being who she is. She realizes, like, whenever I want her to wear a certain thing, oh, I want you to look cute, right? I want you to wear like the frilly dresses and the cute bows and things like that. I want you to be quote unquote girly, like, right, what society has deemed girly. And she's not like that at all. She's like, don't put me in those things. I don't want to wear them. And she will have a fit. She has had a fit since she was like 2 in wearing those things. And I think that's another part of like parenthood, is grieving the child that you thought you were going to have or that you wish you did have, and then accepting that that's not who your kid is. They are their own person, and learning to love who that person is, even if it makes you frustrated.
Wow. Yes. And how is that grief going? How are you processing it?
It was hard at first. I feel like there are some times where I'm still in those moments of like, I wish you were this way.
Can you
And
describe, I wish you were, what way? What is that child that you're grieving
I
that you
wish
would
that
have
she
had?
was more chill, more calm, I guess, in the way that she reacts to things. She has very, very big emotions. And for me, I have never really felt like I needed to be that way. I'm not saying I don't have emotions, because, you know, I'm human, but I've just never been big on showing them, I guess. Even as a kid, my mom said that when I was a baby that she would try to like love on me and show me love, and I was just like pushing her away, like, I don't want that. Like, please stop. And I'd cry and get upset. And my daughter, like, is okay to, I don't know, she's emotional, but also she says what she's feeling, right? And I feel like that wasn't always the thing for me. Even if I was feeling emotional, I wasn't necessarily saying the things, except for like when I was a baby. Because when I was like 5 or 6, I wouldn't be pushing away my parents or my grandparents or whoever it was that was wanting to love on me. It's like, oh, this is what you're supposed to, like, you know, that's your family. You're supposed to let them love on you. And my daughter, like, you know, I don't want that. Like, please give me space. Or if she gets upset, like, she's gotten so much better with having therapy. She's seeing a therapist, like psychology therapist, and then also seeing an occupational therapist.
Right.
And so we have been working on emotional regulation and knowing what's an emergency, or like what's a big problem versus a little problem, and reacting to a little problem the way that you would a big problem. It's like the range of emotions, like they need to, you know, go from lower to higher. And for her, it's always like one emotion is very big. Yeah. So I think I forgot what the question was. I feel like I went off on a tangent. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that what would have been the child that you're grieving, what would have been that ideal child. And
Right. To be
it
chill.
sounds, yes. Well, is it to be chill, or is it to be a little bit less resistant?
A little less resistant, a little more even tempered. Okay, so I'm going to get a little woo right now.
Go ahead.
I feel like I believe in astrology, and that people's signs are typically pretty spot on with how they are as people. And my daughter is a Cancer, which I don't know if you know anything about astrology, but
Yeah.
yeah, okay. So she's a Cancer, and I am an Aquarius. And as an air sign, I have always told myself, like before I even met my husband or anything, I always told myself, I am never, ever dating a Cancer, because they are way too emotional. I'm never doing it. And then I have a Cancer daughter. I am forever
Yeah. And
stubborn.
what does that say? Because it was something I've noted down here in my notepad, is that your daughter's here to teach you stuff, to teach you
Yeah,
something. And
for sure.
it's very clear that she's hitting all your buttons and all your triggers.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely that I can't ignore emotion. I need to be able to feel the emotions, to feel the things, and know that it's not just me being overreacting or emotional. It's like I'm human and I have emotion and I need to feel those emotions. And
Yeah.
she
And
just
even if
naturally.
sometimes these emotions are deemed as too dramatic for the
Mhm.
situation at hand, or if sometimes when we shut our emotions down for a while, it may feel like we're opening Pandora's box if we allow the emotion to come out. We don't know how it's going to come out because it could be really intense. It's been boxed
Mhm.
up in there for a long time. Who knows
Right.
what it's grown into?
Right.
And so your daughter not being as emotionally regulated in the sense of having a specific baseline for all types of problems, little ones, big ones, having big emotions for all of these,
Mhm.
also could be triggering that fear of, if I let go, if I allowed myself to release the emotion, oh my God, could I just be completely irregulated in that sense and just full on dramatic? And
Right.
what would that say? That could be a really different person than who you've been taught to be. But
Yeah.
I do want to say that I'm noticing in your language there are a lot of shoulds and a
Mm.
lot of needs. So you've done a lot of work on yourself, and maybe I'm wrong, but it seems like you've also read up on things. You've done your due diligence in order to be the best parent that you can be. But a
Mhm.
lot of the things that you're saying are very intellectualized. And this is something that a lot of people who are ambitious, who are high achievers, what happens is we know what we need to do, but then we're very forceful about it. We
Mhm.
may, in some cases, guilt trip ourselves around it. And I'm wondering with these needs and shoulds if something similar is happening. It sounds like you are disregarding the fact you're mentioning it, but I don't know if you're regarding it on an emotional level, the fact that you've created the space for your daughter to be the way that she is. Whereas you looking at her and admiring her and thinking, why can't I be this way? Why am I a people pleaser? Why don't I speak my mind? It sounds a little bit judgmental toward yourself and
Mm.
less compassionate about, well, I wasn't in the same situation to have that freedom.
Yeah. No, for sure. I mean, that is a really good perspective to look at. And it is because I didn't necessarily feel safe expressing those emotions or like what those feelings were. Because as I did mention, I did feel like I was dismissed as a kid or like thought or often told, oh, you don't need to feel that way. Like, why do you feel that way? And it's like, why can't I just feel the way that I feel? Why do you have to tell me what to feel? And so I think I've just kind of learned to internalize those emotions because they weren't really taken seriously, I guess.
They were too much, maybe?
I don't know, honestly. I think it was more of an intent thing where I felt one way and, my parents maybe were like, oh, that wasn't my intention and you're taking it wrong kind of thing. And I understand maybe you didn't mean it that way, but I'm telling you how it made me feel and you're dismissing it. And because you're dismissing it, it makes me think, oh, you don't think it's a big deal, so you're going to do it again.
Right. And it creates an insecurity. And going back to the you haven't said the word and I'm using it, but it could be a different word for you. But going back to the dramatic, well, then if you are always, quote unquote, interpreting what I say as something, let's say, hostile in some shape or form because it made you angry or because it made you really sad or because it hurt your feelings, and I keep on telling you that was a wrong interpretation. So I am telling you, you're being dramatic. I'm creating insecurity and I'm creating a whole sense of self-doubt, right?
Yeah.
What's the signal? I keep on telling you your interpretations are wrong. So you don't trust yourself to come up with the appropriate interpretation that would then warrant the appropriate emotion. And the easiest thing is to just shut everything down.
Mm-hmm. For sure. I remember being a kid. I don't remember who the conversation was with, but I remember having this conversation and it was about my dad. And my dad's a very calm person. And usually when he gets mad, like he's mad. And I used to be like, oh yeah, my dad, like what I just told you, like my dad's really calm and he never gets mad. He only gets mad when you like push him over the edge. And then like now as an adult and like having done the inner work that I feel like I'm doing right now, and thinking about it, it's like, was that just him like internalizing all those emotions and not actually saying what he felt? And now like he's been pushed over to the edge and now he's just like exploding with emotion at the end. That's what it sounds like to me. So is that something I actually want to learn and be? No, because I've learned that the more and more that you ignore a situation, your emotions, that the more you're going to push them down, they become bottled up, and then you are more susceptible to having that explosion and the whole situation being so much worse than if you would have just dealt with the one emotion in the time.
Definitely. Definitely. And so long as we keep a lot of things under the surface and we keep them on a subconscious level, they're the ones that are deciding our actions, basically, without us realizing it. And the example that you said at the beginning about rushing your daughter and then realizing it after she reflected it back to you, you hadn't realized it yourself, is because there were these expectations and these feelings and the way that you were taught to react. And you didn't realize that that's what you were doing until someone showed it to you, mirrored it back. So I'm wondering, what would be a way that you could relieve your inner child a little bit? Because it sounds like there's a lot of self-blame there about why it isn't able to let go of the program, why it is rushing your daughter, why it is a people pleaser, whereas your daughter has the tenacity to be more strong-willed and to express her emotions. I'm wondering what that inner child might want, if you have access at this point to be able to ask, what does your inner child desire?
Right. It's funny that you asked this because last weekend I literally had a toddler tantrum in my room by myself. And I like screamed into the pillow, I don't know how many times, and I cried, I bawled. And I realized it's because I felt like, sorry, this, it feels very silly and very vulnerable at the same time, but it's because I felt like I wasn't liked as a kid. And that's what I want to be as an adult. I want to be liked. Like, who doesn't want to be liked for the most part? I feel like people just want to be accepted, right, for who they are. And I think that showing who I truly am has been difficult because I have had evidence as a kid, as a teen, as an adult, that people don't like the way that I am sometimes. Like I said, I was bullied as a kid because of my appearance, because I've always been a big kid, like always been a big girl. Like I was a big kid, I was a big person, like now as an adult. And kids are truthful, right? If there's a kid who's overweight, the other kids are going to say something about it. And I've been called annoying because I was talking loudly in a library. I have been called abrasive by adults because I'm a very direct person. And sometimes that comes off as being rude. And that's not my, like, we go back to intention, right? And so I have learned that people don't like someone who is forceful. They want someone who's going to be compliant for the most part. Like they want people who are going to fall in line or just, I don't know. I have come to terms with like, I'm not going to be liked by everybody. And that's what I wanted when I was a kid, just to be liked. And now as an adult, I am learning like, it's okay that not everybody likes me. I'm not going to be for everyone.
Those instances, as an adult at least, that you were called abrasive, for example, or annoying, or these things, have there been more instances? So have you heard the annoying part from several people, or was it one instance? And
no, it was one instance when I was
okay.
In high school. Yeah.
Okay.
Like I said, this is all
Abrasive?
abrasive. I have been called abrasive. The instance that I remember, I know that it's probably been on a couple of occasions, but for sure, like one instance I remember, I was in my 20s, early 20s. I would say between 20 that I was called abrasive.
So I want to reflect back to you what I'm hearing as an outsider.
Sure.
I'm hearing that you received at some point in your childhood, and may have been early on, it sounds like it was very early on, you received the message that you need to be compliant in order to be liked. And then what that created was a self-fulfilling prophecy that became the rule. It became the manual. It became the formula in your head. And since then, you've been looking for things that confirm it. And so that one incident where you were called abrasive is what you will recall. And you'll say, see, it is true. It's not just my family environment. That one incident that you were called annoying at the library, okay, well, you didn't realize that it can happen to anyone. And you know what? Maybe you were annoying to those people reading because you were in a library, but some other person could have been like, oops, yes, I was annoying. I didn't realize, moved on. But you've kept that and you use it as proof that you are not liked when you are yourself. Right? And so I'm seeing a pattern here where we're trying to prove that you aren't liked when you are yourself. And I don't necessarily see that you allowed yourself to really blossom in the sense of did you really come out and be yourself? The moment you were a little bit more like yourself, some comment came in and you took it to heart and you used it as proof. So being loud, I don't know if it's a characteristic of yours if you were to let go and be loose, but a person can be loud and maybe, okay, in a library, I can try not to be loud and it's not being inauthentic. It's just, I understand that in this case, my loudness won't be appreciated. It's not that I'm not liked. It's just that it's the particular setting. I won't go in a church and twerk, right? So you get what I mean, right?
Yes,
So,
yes.
and it's not being inauthentic because I don't do it while I would have done it in a club. It's situational.
Right.
But for you, it became like, oh, see, my loud self wasn't appreciated. I was called annoying.
Yeah.
And so I'm wondering if that would be a nice activity for you to do, because I always like to leave people with something to do. And knowing that this is one time that we're going to meet, I do want to leave you with something. And my thought is it would be nice if you would journal all the ways in which you have proven that you're not liked when you are yourself. And if you could use what we just did to debunk it, to say, okay, it was a one-time incident. Okay, yeah, maybe in that specific scenario, I was annoying and anyone would have thought of just about anybody who did that as annoying and that would have been okay, because it happens. Hey, I've been at a cinema and I never talk at a cinema because I don't want to be annoying, but with the appropriate company, you start laughing about something, whatever, you become that person in that instance. It's not you, right? And it's not something that defines you forever. But you've taken a lot of these things and they've defined you. And I think what your daughter does is she reflects that back to you, that she is herself. And you may have shown her some discontent or some annoyance or some frustration, but she still feels loved because you are loving her still. You accept her unconditionally. But there's a part of you that says, but I've never allowed myself when I felt like I was rushed, when I felt like I was judged. I never allowed myself to step out. I kept on pulling more and she doesn't. And it's a reminder of the healing that needs to take place for you. Because what happens a lot of times is if our inner child doesn't heal, if we don't allow our inner child that same capacity for unconditional acceptance, then it becomes really difficult for us to unconditionally love our children. It becomes a real struggle because internally, it's kind of like having a child. Your firstborn is within you, and it's saying, "You don't treat me this way. Why are you treating the other two differently?"
Yeah, for sure. I feel like she's fearless, to be honest. And it's like, how can I be more that way about myself? How can I give myself the grace and the compassion to be that way? And these are questions that I ask myself. And then I am using those past instances as proof. And it's like you said, it was that one time that people thought that. Does that define every time? No. But, some of those core memories, they stick, right? And
Right.
it's hard to get around them. And
I think people are fearless when they feel that they've got at least some kind of a safety net. So they could do something that's very risky. They have some form of trust in the universe, in God. They have some form of trust in their parents' love, some form of trust in something.
Mhm.
Fearless people have had a safer background. And so to answer your question about how can I be more fearless and how can I be compassionate, well, you need to create that same safe space. You need to ask your inner child what she needs from you right now to feel safe. We can't go back. We can't
Mhm.
create a safe environment in the home. And maybe you had great parents, but on an emotional level, they didn't know any better and you
Mhm.
felt unsafe either way. So it's not about blaming our parents, but
Right.
if you felt unsafe, that's how you felt. Like you said before, maybe you didn't mean it that way, but that's how I felt. You can't dismiss it. And so
Mhm.
don't dismiss the fact that you didn't feel safe in order to be that fearless person that your daughter is. And
Mhm.
then ask your inner child and journal on that. What is it that would make you feel safer so that you can slowly, very slowly, without expectation, start to come out of the shadows with people that you know are more likely to be accepting. So you could try it with your partner, you could try it with your children. Our children love us. They love us,
They
right?
do.
And it's and this is probably why your daughter's here. She's triggering your buttons and she's trying to see, like, will you come out? She's inviting you to come out to play, basically.
Yeah.
You know, looking at what you said about the bath time, she's
Yeah.
playful, and that playfulness is an irritation for you. It goes against right, it goes
Yeah.
against the program, against the setting. So she's inviting you to play.
Yeah.
And part of you wasn't. Your parents wanted someone ambitious, a high achiever. There's not much room to play there.
No. Yeah, even
So,
like coming home from school, it's like do your homework first, and then you get to go and watch TV or go play or do something. So, yeah.
well, okay. I mean, that is a nice structure, I guess.
Mhm.
It helps most kids maintain structure. That's not
Yeah.
necessarily, it really is the rest of it. How does the rest of the day go? How do the other things that could be more relaxed? So the bath time where she wants to play, in order for you to be able to be less structured and be more playful, it's
Mhm.
important for you not to look at the logistics. Oh, maybe we should go into bath time earlier then so I can have more time and then maybe I can, like, you know, have her less rushed. I don't think it's a
Yeah.
logistics issue. I think a part of you is like, no, no play's no good. I won't be accepted if I play, and this whole play annoys me, so let my husband take over.
No, you like hit it right on the head about logistics because like that is how my mind works. Like I
Hmm.
want to plan and schedule everything because that's what I do in work. And yeah, I don't mind if she plays. It's just that I want it to be scheduled play,
Right.
which is crazy.
Right, when
But
I schedule in the play, it's acceptable.
yes, when I don't schedule the play, it's not okay.
Yeah, because it takes you out of the path to success.
I know.
Yeah. So you need to take it a step at a time and be really kind to yourself when you notice these things, instead of say, ugh, you know, you should have gotten past that already. Ugh, well, you did it again. But to
Yeah.
say, okay, well, it will take time. It will take
Hmm.
time. And to question, what do you need? And to find people that you feel safe starting to show a few more layers of yourself to, knowing that they'll love you either way.
For sure. Man, still a lot of work to do. That's what I feel
Oh no,
like.
we always have work to do.
Yeah.
That's not a bad thing. People that realize they have a lot of work to do are the ones that are developing and they're growing. We're never there,
Yeah.
but if we do it in a compassionate way,
Yeah.
we will always be on a good path.
Awesome. Thank you, Markella.
Thank you so much for being here and for opening up. Is there anything else that would make you feel like you're leaving more light?
I don't think so. I feel like those are good journal prompts, and I'm definitely gonna journal on it. Like, what would create a safe space for me to be fearless?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And take it a step at a time. Patience, right? Because it's been a few years, a few decades that you have told yourself to, and you've kept on finding proof that you need to be hidden. And
Right.
so it's going to take a while before you start to feel that comfort, but that is a very big step toward there.
Awesome. Good stuff.
Well, thank you so, so much for your courage and for your vulnerability and for being here and for sharing all of the things that you shared with us. I think that a lot of our listeners are going to relate. Our children do trigger a lot of things in us,
Yeah.
and not many parents feel that they have the space to be able to admit that there's a lot of judgment and a lot of fear around saying something like that. Oh, my child triggers me, or I would have wanted them to be a little bit different and I'm grieving the child I would have wished I had. It takes a lot of self-awareness and courage to be able to say that, and in itself recognizing this and saying it unapologetically is healing on its own, because it's okay for all of these things to exist, to grieve our old self, to grieve the child we would have wanted, to grieve for our inner child who is crying on the inside and saying, I don't get this treatment. Why does she? And is antagonizing the child that we have across from us. And while we're doing the things that we're doing internally, we are fighting, right? And
Mhm.
it's so, so, so important that you're able to look at this objectively and without judgment and criticism, and to say, you know what? Yeah, that is what I'm doing and I'm working on it. So keep on going in the path that you're going.
Thank you.
Well, that's a wrap for today. So, throughout the session, I have purposely not used your name because I didn't know whether you would have wanted to be anonymous or not.
Mm-hmm.
But right now, since you are telling me that you're feeling comfortable, I would love for you to share who you are and what you do with our audience, because I think it's important that they know that they can work with someone who's got this level of self awareness, who's doing the work, who's very much interested in developing, because these are the kinds of people that can help us develop, not people who are already there or market themselves like they're already there, but people who are doing the work. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure, absolutely. So, thank you. I wasn't sure if I wanted to share at first because, it is a vulnerable conversation, but I feel that this vulnerability helps other people not feel so alone. And I am the host of the Blissfully Bold podcast, where I do talk about some of these things. My podcast is about boundaries, being able to set them and be able to implement them and maintain them, and self growth, which is the work that I'm currently doing, and the courage to live a more peaceful life, because it does take bravery to be able to get up here and talk about all of these vulnerabilities and then to be able to
Yes.
express those on a podcast. That is really my passion. So people can find me at the Blissfully Bold podcast. It's on Apple, Spotify, basically any podcasting platform that you have, you're able to find it. You can find me at Blissfully Bold Podcast on Instagram. And I currently started a premium podcast subscription on Buy Me a Coffee. It's called Bold and Unfiltered. The web address is buymeacoffee.com/blissfully bold podcast. It's $7 a month. And I'll have more conversations like this where it's just super open and super raw. And then also I offer something called Crossroads Conversations, where I'm able to have these vulnerable conversations with other people and just kind of talk about crossroads in their lives, or maybe big kind of life experiences that they don't necessarily know how to handle or filter. People can DM me again on Instagram at Blissfully Bold Podcast or at Gavie.Remaly. I am still in the process of actually launching it, so I've just been talking it up. But yeah, thank you.
Very nice. Very nice. Thank you for sharing all of your offers and all of what you do. And I'm thinking that podcast, the premium podcast that you're referring to with the unfiltered part, I don't think it's a coincidence that you've decided to do that. It could be that platform where you allow yourself to shine, where you allow parts of yourself to come out unfiltered.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the best way that you can help your listeners and your clients while you are shining and you are unconditionally, unapologetically showing up as you are with love for you and for them. So thanks again for being here and thank you for sharing. And I'll have everything in the show notes for everyone so that you can easily find all the links and get in touch with Gavie. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode on the Parenthood and Relationship Podcast. I hope this coaching session offered you a fresh perspective and some takeaways that you can apply to your own parenting or partnership. From a therapist's viewpoint, from a coach's viewpoint, what we heard today reminds us how our own experiences as children often shape the way we parent and interact with our kids. Reflecting on this can open doors for healing and growth, allowing us to parent more mindfully and connect more deeply with our partners. So, what part of today's discussion spoke to you? What would you take away to improve your own life or relationship? I would love to hear your thoughts. Contact me by email at info@markelakaplani.com. DM me on Instagram at markela.kaplani. I reply to every DM. I listen to every audio that you send me. So I would love to hear your thoughts. Before we close, I would like to take a moment to thank Gavie for her bravery and vulnerability in sharing her journey with us. Gavie is a boundaries advocate who helps working moms start setting boundaries through what she calls microjournaling, a simple and practical way to build a sustainable journaling habit. She is also the host of the Blissfully Bold Podcast, where she explores boundaries, personal growth, and courageous living. And before I go, I really would love to express my heartfelt gratitude to the experts who joined us this year. Holly Logan, who gave us invaluable tips on managing overstimulation as mothers, and Dr. Adam Dorsey, who shared incredible advice on fostering connection and nurturing relationships with ourselves and others. A huge thank you goes to our brave coaching guests, Hannah, Devin, Lexi, and Gavie, for opening their hearts and helping us learn and grow through their own experience. And to you, my listeners, thank you for your presence, your feedback, and your trust. You've made this year an incredible one for the podcast, and I'm so excited for what's to come in 2025. From the bottom of my heart, I wish you and your family a wonderful new year filled with connection, joy, and growth. Take care, and I'll see you in season 2.